All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub. I'm here with my co-host, Tineiwo, and a special guest, Neil Bester. Bester, how are you feeling today, my man?
Strong, excited, as we were just discussing now. Really looking forward to what you're going to hit me with. Hopefully I can answer it to the best of my abilities and not beat around the bush and get straight to the point.
And
But
T,
otherwise, yeah.
are you feeling good as well?
Yeah, feeling good, feeling blessed. I think, one of my favorite things is exchanging wisdom. So yeah, just a blessing to be here and a blessing to obviously get to hear the wisdom Neil's gonna drop today,
No pressure. Okay, so I was thinking we should start at the beginning for you because, when people look at you today, they see this jacked guy who's doing these pull-ups like it's nothing, lifting these heavy weights. But maybe you weren't always like that. So, what I would ask is, have you always been somebody who was a great athlete? Or like how did you get into training for the first time?
So, no, I wasn't. Maybe because I didn't test my abilities early on.
Yeah.
Almost like shied away just from my own, I'd say, insecurities or just being a smaller guy. Growing up, I was a smaller dude. So for the initial few years, you get to about 13, 14, guys, everyone hits puberty at a different stage. So some guys sprout up way quicker, others were only 16, 17. And some guys only really come fully grown 22, 23, as I've come to see. So no, I wasn't always, but funny, I was in grade 8 and I was at K, so it was like a testosterone driven.
Yeah, like a prison.
No, it was intense. It was like eat or be eaten, basically. And all my mates were in the A team, rugby. I was, I think, like D or E team.
Yeah.
And there was a gym, the Robbery, and I remember going there and just hitting a session when I was still at boarding school. And walking back, I must have weighed in my 40s. I can't even remember, which is, I was a small dude. And the one guy was like, bro, just start training because gym is all you have. And he basically hit me with that. And I never took offense. I was like, I'm not a sportsman. He's kind of right. Like, it's either gym or I'm playing E-team rugby. So from that day, so backstory before the actual training gym side, I did do the 947 when I was 13. I was a big cyclist, but cycling doesn't get you jacked. And I was very fit. I was fit, so to say. Physique-wise, I was just a boy, basically. 12, 13-year-old kid, 14, still a boy. Walked into the gym, basically. And that journey just began from me wanting to get bigger initially, because obviously the insecurities of being smaller, and then it's led to what it is today. Completely different approach to what I was training, you can call 14 years ago.
Sure.
So
and so when you started off, how did you navigate it? Because I think for a lot of people, the gym can be an intimidating place. I mean, you see, as a beginner, you see all of these big guys and they seem like they know what they're doing, but also the world of exercise and nutrition there's so many different directions a person can go into. And people are almost very tribalistic in terms of their training styles. It's like either you're a CrossFit guy or you're a powerlifter or you're a this or you're that. So like, I'm curious, how did you navigate that environment? Like, did you find a mentor? Were there people who took you under their wing, or was it all just self-taught?
So good question, in the sense that obviously fitness is made up of multiple components.
Yeah.
The CrossFit, the functional fitness, the pure strength, powerlifting. Initially, when I started, luckily it was from a bodybuilding approach, just purely trying to stack on size, get bigger. So that approach to training is actually pretty much probably the easiest way of training. You follow in a certain rep range, you follow in X amount of exercises. The biggest thing is obviously eating outside. But initially, I've never really been shy to ask for help in the gym. So I remember being a grade 8 at Cares and going to Matric, the biggest guy.
Yeah.
How did you get arms like that? Little did I know it was probably the creatine and some other things, but he basically was like, just do this arm routine, just do this. So throughout training in the initial stages, actually up until matric, I would go to what I perceive the guy to know what he's doing and just be like, can I have some help? Can I train with you? Can I jump in on sessions? There was a guy, so grade 8, 9, 10, it was pretty much following older grades, grade 11s, matrics, because I was at boarding school. In grade 9, I moved to Benny's. So it was mid-year. And then I started going to Virgin Active down the road, which was about 450 meters away, the Bedford View. And I'd go in the peak times, obviously before school, after school. You saw it was morning and afternoon sessions.
Yeah.
So would walk up to a guy randomly, hey, I'm Neil, what's your name? Personal trainers. I didn't have the disposable income as a 14, 15-year-old to pay for a personal trainer. So it's pretty much whatever magazine I got my hands on, advice somebody was giving me. It was almost just whatever resource I could get, I would just consume. And then blindly trusting those around me, which, as you said, what I thought they knew better, and a lot of them they knew their stuff. They obviously got to that point because they knew some things. And luckily, 9 out of 10 people that I approached, they were like, cool, took me under their wing, and basically I trained with them. So I had a multitude of training partners, some sessions crazy looking back at it, just doing whatever. And then some sessions still that I compete today, to be honest with you. So it was a mix of really good advice and very shoddy advice.
Yeah, of course. You know what's interesting, when I'm listening to you, it makes me think of this principle from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about resources and resourcefulness. And essentially, people generally would like to say if they fail at something, they say it's because of a lack of resources. But 90% of the time, it's a lack of resourcefulness. And you know what you were saying there about it's not like someone came to you and said, hey, Neil, let me teach you how to do this. You had to go and find your teachers. You know, you didn't have the resources to hire a coach. So you had to kind of create your own coach out of different partners and trust that, you know, what they were teaching you would work, and then figuring out for yourself, okay, this tool works, this tool doesn't work, and kind of building your own toolkit for yourself along the way, you know, which is something that I find fascinating.
Which I think what you stated there, the resourcefulness, it's how bad you want it almost. There's resources. If you want to make money, there's money everywhere. If you want to go out and get something done, how bad you honestly wanted to get it done. Back then we didn't have, we had YouTube. It was the early stages, 2010, 2011. I was watching Casey Neistat's original videos. They were 2010, and he's the godfather of vlogging. So we did have some of those resources, early days of Instagram, and started tapping in on that. But for the most part, the magazines and just uncovering and going out and just asking the questions. But you're right, like just not stopping until you got that answer.
Yeah. T, it reminds me of something that you told me one time of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the readiness to me sounds like what Best is saying here of how badly do you want it?
100%, 100%. I mean, based on obviously how Besta was answering, right, you could see that throughout his journey, he was ready for it. And that's why, regardless of the fact that he may not have had disposable income or the resources to get the knowledge, the universe provided it accordingly, right?
Exactly.
And the crazy thing about it is that when the universe provides it for you, yes, the journey is tough, but it just keeps on making sense the more you get into it. So it's just nice to see how, as he speaks his story, the principles of the universe show that they are true and that they exist, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're doing it at a young age. And I think what's most remarkable is that Neil's journey started in high school, dude. You know, for most men, your journey to seeking knowledge and wanting to better yourself is after that, after you've gone through traumatic experiences and things like that. So yeah. Keep speaking, Best. I'm loving the knowledge, eh?
But can I just say something that's amazing for me? It's like I was having a conversation with you earlier this week about Jocko Willink and Jordan Peterson. And what's interesting about them is that they were talking about principles that they both lived by and that they both discovered on their journeys, but they were very different journeys. I mean, Peterson is a clinical psychologist, Jocko was a Navy SEAL, but these almost these universal laws are discovered by these guys in different realms. So I mean, you're speaking now about this like journey of training and growth and knowledge. And you know what's interesting is like we were at school, a place where you should be getting educated. But I feel like the lessons that you were learning, which are very powerful life lessons, were all coming from outside of school, you know, which is fascinating to me.
Which I want to honestly, where T said with regards to traumatic experiences, the actual reason I actually got into training, and I'll touch on it, is when I was 7, my granddad diagnosed with bone marrow cancer, started with prostate. I actually was next to him when he passed away. So that's 7 years old. A few months later, my grandma from my mom's side passed away from cancer. Obviously, unhealthy living habits. Back then, drinking, smoking was almost accepted in society. Then 9 years old, my dad gets diagnosed with testicular cancer. At 9 years old, you're different to what you were when you're 7.
Sure.
Obviously, it's a 2-year, but it's quite a big personality change. But the first thing you think is you saw your grandfather obviously go down that road. So 9 years old, my dad testicular cancer, bout 1. Strong, goes through it. I still remember, but not as intensely. Fast forward another 3 years, I'm 12, 13. He gets diagnosed with the second bout of cancer. This time, way more intense, so to say. Has to stop chemotherapy just because the chemo is killing his body. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is that watching how that went from such a young age, I'm not saying like everyone has their own traumas, and trauma for me versus trauma for others around me completely different. It's just my perspective, obviously. But that was very traumatic in my upbringing. And then from there, when my dad was in remission, he decided to go overseas. Having cancer for 2 years, being knocked down, almost not being able to walk 2 to 3 square meters without collapsing. He couldn't work. So it got to a point where financially he had to go overseas, and a lot of people actually understand that. Just 2 seconds.
Sure.
Sorry, somebody's coming in. 2 seconds. So sorry about that, guys. So basically, sorry, apologies.
Okay.
So that happens, and watching all of that and experiencing those things, I said to myself, I'll never be in that position where my dad was, where he was so weak to actually support, provide, to look after if something had to happen, so to say. And that was the hand he was dealt.
Yeah.
So from 12, 13, I was reading those Lance Armstrong books and seeing how he defeated, that was before he got popped, so to say.
Yeah.
And his name was almost dragged through the dirt. But in that stage, and I'll still to this day say Lance is my hero, because he got me out of that zone just by seeing. I saw my dad obviously overcome it, but
Yes.
that experience, and as you say, going to school and learning, I kind of checked out at about that age, and I'll be honest with you, in school, is that when I was going home, it wasn't like seeing a nice, how do I say, setup. It was either seeing my dad sick and going overseas, or seeing my mom supporting a family, and just like I look at it now and I'm like, how did my mom even go through that and survive it, you know? So it was, so schooling, a lot of people are, Neil, come on, get with it, switch on, like you're always spending time in the gym. But that gym was actually saving me.
Exactly.
So like those sessions in the morning and evening and stuff, people were quick to say you're not getting good results. But truth be told, I actually really didn't care about school. It was just a means to an end, which on a double-edged sword, I felt bad for not caring because my parents obviously working to put me into that school. On the other side, that was just the stage in my life. I can't really, it's hindsight. Will I approach things differently as I get older? Definitely, because I have the wisdom now. Back then, it was anger, and that was guiding my route. So a lot of factors and stuff, and yeah, that's what going back on that, the traumatic experiences and stuff. There's a lot of reason as to how that approach started so young.
But you know, dude, if I can add something which I find fascinating, as a guy who was there with you at that time, you know, I remember we went through a period of time we were training together, and you picked me up at like 5 in the morning, and we would be at the gym when it opens. And I saw the responsibility on your shoulders at that early age. You know, you had to pack lunch for your little brother and like take care of him. And as you say, your dad wasn't there. So in a way, you were kind of a man at a time in your life when you should have just been a boy. But, you know, Tony Robbins, as this life coach, talks about life is happening for you, not to you, right? And if I look at the man that you are today, who, you know, you are so strong, you're so disciplined, you're so inspirational to so many people, the question that I would ask is, could you possibly be that person if you didn't go through that trauma, you know? It's like if you don't do the reps, you're not going to get the muscle. And you know, so
completely. And I agree, yeah. Like I say, there's no thing of regret in me. I remember it's quite scary because you know the type of person, and I'll be honest, in high school I wasn't the Neil I am today. It was just a shadow, so to say.
Yeah,
exactly. And I was putting out a bad hand from how the teachers, peers viewed me, this macho bravado, just gym butts that wants to jump and fight at any given opportunity. That wasn't. It was just insecurities. That whole famous saying is, a bully is just honestly insecure. And that's pretty much what it was. I just didn't know how to. And finishing high school, almost blacked it out, so to say. Literally, I don't even enjoy going back and talking about it. I do acknowledge it and stuff, but I'm just like, that was a chapter, it's closed. I don't need to re-enter it. Like a lot of guys will say they love their high school careers and how T's still got records and stuff, which I back completely. Do you see how the roots are completely different?
Yeah.
I look at my high school and I'm like, that's only when I finished, that's only when I actually became my true self.
Sure.
Like, so yeah, it started and stuff, but those were almost like the trench years, so to say. And like, I remember, and you'll even know, first year came and I was reading obviously all these resources as we do, but basically I shut out everyone. Friends, I completely call me, I didn't answer and stuff. And a lot of people were saying, you know, you like understand balance and you know, you have to reply and stuff. And I was like, I'm not a good person around you, so I'm not gonna like, it's not anything on you, it's just I don't feel comfortable in that position, so I'm not gonna put myself in that position. And obviously through taking myself completely out of that so-called bubble, I can now enter pretty much any bubble and feel confident in who I am, so to say. I don't see your hand up there, sorry.
Neil, I like what you mentioned there about obviously the trench years, right? And I have a question that I want to ask you about obviously being the best. I sense that obviously you have this craving in you to obviously better yourself, you know, all the time. And my question for you is when did that come alive? Because you can clearly see it in your personality that it's burning and thriving. Where was that transition, right? Seeing that high school was the trenches, and I'll explain to you why I asked that after your answer.
So basically, that's a cool question. I don't think too much about it. I just almost view my life as a story, so to say. I really love the YouTube. And one day when I am on my deathbed, sounds cliche, I do want to look back and say, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that. I didn't ever leave any stone unturned. Luckily, the environments I'm currently in now, there's so many high performers that you can't not be a high performer. So you got the
Mm.
likes of the Demar Penne, EFC fighters. You
Mm.
got the likes of Alex Limburg, and you hear all these stories where the guys are waking up at 3 a.m. to train and then go work a full day and then train again, midday train. And you're saying to yourself, this is normal. It's normal to be better
Yeah.
every single day. It's not, I'm not, so to say, overthinking it. It's just, I think it's ingrained, it's characteristic now.
And I
So
love how you
when it started, I can't honestly put my finger on. I feel as if every day it starts again, so to say. It's just
yeah, and I love how you answered that, right? Because I think a lot of people think that hard work is extra, but hard work is a product of living a good life. Like you have to do it if you wanna feel fulfilled. You have to work hard, as painful as it is. But that's just life, right? And I'll speak for myself. Taking it back to high school, for me, it was also the change years, right? Because I hated academics, like so badly that I'm known for sleeping most of my high school in terms of class. However, when it came to sports, that was my kingdom. And my dad always used to say to me, I know you don't like school and stuff like that, but like pick one thing that you're gonna be the best at, and you'll learn your lessons through that one thing. So for me, it was athletics. Anything else, I was on autopilot. And I built my character and I built my personality and I built my charisma all around, athletics. And I mean, obviously, it went as far as, even though my parents, knowing I didn't like school, they got me this coach called Lux Gordon. He's one of the best South African coaches. I mean, he's coached your likes of Caster Semenya and all those type of guys. And he taught me about fast twitch fibers, fast twitch muscle fibers, of which obviously help sprinters and long jumpers to become the best they can be. And through that, I thrived. And till today, I lean on the lessons that I learned from my love for sport in the school environment. And I still consider those my change years, because the overall environment of school for me was just a dark space of admin that I just never wanted to do. So yeah, nice way to break it down there. And thanks for answering that.
And can I just say, I see this with so many high performers. It's ridiculous. If I look at you two guys, of the guys that I know, I mean, I come from a corporate background, T as well. And the people that I saw who were the best in terms of showing up every day, doing great work, really making a big impact. And, when you look at a definition of success, to me, it's like creating the life that you want to live, not what other people tell you to live. I find this common theme of almost rebellion at school. And I don't mean like being bad, but just having a sense of, I'm not going to do something just because you tell me to do it. If it doesn't make sense to me, then that's not the life that I want to live, right? And you see, like, conformity at school, like, to do well at school, you need to conform. Just do what they tell you to do, study, whatever, follow the rules. But when you talk about creating a successful life for yourself, doing what other people tell you to do is not necessarily the right move, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's about real life is about being an outlier. School is about being a conformist, you
yeah,
know? In real life, if you're gonna conform, then you're just gonna fall part of the 80%, And like I mentioned the other day, Alex, the biggest inhibitor to a great life is a good life. I think a lot of people stop when things are good,
yeah.
That comfort zone is so dangerous. So there'll always be an outlier and be in that uncomfortable space and make decisions that have a lot of uncertainty behind them,
Yeah.
elevates you to the level of being great and discovering yourself on a level that is better than good.
I'm so glad you said something about comfort zone because it leads into the next thing I wanted to ask now. So, we're gonna get to today, but I still just want to look a little bit backwards first. You went to Vietnam for a period in your life. And when I heard you tell the story, it reminded me of Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And the reason why I say that, so Joseph Campbell, he was a guy who studied mythology around the world. And his work is the work that's inspired some of the biggest film franchises that we see today, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, etc., etc. Because he finds that these stories all have similar themes, in the sense that the hero has a call to adventure that takes him from a place of comfort into a different world where he has to now face the dragon of his own life. So challenges. And then he returns from his journey a different man. And he brings that wisdom back and creates a new life for himself. So when you went to Vietnam, I'm curious, what was your call to this adventure? What triggered it?
Okay, so this has a lot of answers, but I'll try keep it short and sweet. But basically, so now the trench years are over, high school finishes. I'm in first year. I never got the matric results I needed to get into accounting. So I got the sub minimum, but we all know sub minimum is not going to get you into the degree. It's literally just ticking the boxes. Maybe by a luck, you might get into it. So I had applied for accounting and law and never got into that. So I started sports science. I went and sat across the dean of the university, said, yeah, look at my marks. You know what? I messed up. I never applied, but you know what, can I?
Yeah.
He really liked my approach, so to say. He said he came straight to me, sat across from me and got in. Anyways, in first year, that's when the real work started. I was working a full-time job while studying through all my years of studying, 4 years. So it started pretty much picking up weights off the floor in the morning and in the afternoons, and then midday I'd go to university. I did that for about a year. Second year, and I'll tell you why I did that, but second year I started working for quite a cool brand, Switch, where I was a trainer there, and I started training clients on a more serious level, so to say, all the way into my honors year. Into my honors year, I got a really cool opportunity to work with Cycling South Africa, test the athletes. And the reason through those years while I was working, I was obviously doing courses and doing just a lot of business. Just multiple, every month I was probably busy doing a course alongside my studying and working. And so I get to fourth year, I get this cool opportunity, what I perceived as a cool opportunity. I'll retract and say the guy I was working for was a complete, nightmare. So to say, it was probably one of the worst guys I've worked with. And I remember walking into his office because he never paid me that month. And I told him a few choice words and basically said, I'm not coming back. And like, I felt, honestly speaking, I felt very proud because there's a famous thing that my mom told me. People do to you what you allow them to. And I was this student, but at that time I'd already worked for people. I knew exactly how I needed to be treated. And I walked in and I said, this is not right. Here are my things. Cheers, bye, sweet, immediate notice. In America, you can do that. South Africa, you have to give a month's notice.
Yeah.
Well, depends on the type of personality you are. I'm a very principle orientated. So most 9.5 out of 10, this was the moment I wasn't. So I walk out, and walking out, I'm like, sure that I don't have a job now. So I don't have a job. My dad at the time was staying in Malawi. I give him a call. He says to me, Neil, why did you do that? I said, Dad, you know, I don't know. I just did it. And so I book a flight to Malawi and I go visit my dad and I spend 2 or 3 weeks there. And the one day I drove to Lake Malawi and I had 2 books, Who Moved My Cheese and The Subtle Arts of Not Giving a, can I swear, fuck?
Yeah.
And so, well, it's a book title. So I read these 2 books and I remember reading Who Moved My Cheese. And that 100-page book changed the whole way of thinking. So I was sitting at the lake. It was just me reading these books. And honestly, everything was going through my head. I was like, I gave up this crazy opportunity, but was it crazy? I just finished my degree. I don't have a job. I'd worked all these years to get to the point what I thought was the point. And it was almost just, I almost was back again in that matric stage where what's the next step?
Yeah.
And that time now, matric, I never, up until, like I said, the high school, I never saw the big return. But the 4 years, I did see the return. I did see now ticking off all those boxes, getting into honors, doing the degrees and stuff, which a lot of people thought I wasn't going to do, and getting to the point I was, to now be almost humbled again and taken to the bottom. So I'll read these books and I basically go home and book a flight to Vietnam. Why Vietnam? I knew somebody that was there. Tineiwo, actually knowing Matthew Kemper. He had just moved there. He said, yeah, he's like, bro, it's a cool place. To be honest with you, I never thought too much about it. I just said, okay, I need something new. I returned back to South Africa. I told my girlfriend at the time of 4 years, I'm going to Asia, which no one wants to hear. At the time, I was lost, 1000% lost completely, with the degrees in pockets. I booked a flight to Vietnam, stay in a backpackers for a few months. Those were 3 of the hardest months. Talk about trenches, talk about all those things. That was nothing on this. I lost about 8 kgs, as I said in the podcast that I did. But yeah, I got robbed. A lot of my stuff was stolen. I had like no money in my bank account. I got a job in the 2nd month, but my visa and paperwork were denied because my full name wasn't on my certificates. So my passport says Neil Andrew Bester. On my degree, it says Neil Bester. Well, it did. I got that changed, obviously. So now I'm sitting in a foreign country with a 3-month visa and they deny my paperwork. So essentially, I was illegal. So I have to do what's called a border run, which I have to leave the country and come back in. So I go to Cambodia as a Sayeti, St. Benedict's Senderwood kid does, just to a bus to Cambodia and leave the country literally and to come back in. But that was the tip of the iceberg. There was obviously the no money, the no eating, the not training that kept me healthy all those years. Basically the regret of leaving my girlfriend, leaving a good paying job, leaving everything to be in an Asian country with nothing. So you can understand what's probably going through my brain, being that pusher and high achiever. I didn't know what the next step was. But in saying that, the best feeling I've ever experienced looking back was because it just took me almost to what I felt the bottom. And I remember, and I'll be honest with you guys, for like 3 weeks, I would go sit in the park and just cry. And it would be the weirdest thing because I would just sit on a bench and
time to cry.
Obviously, it's an Asian country, and literally, it's like literally time to cry. And these people would walk past me and be like, just keep in mind, it was at the backpacking street. So there were hundreds of thousands. The population there is about 13 million condensed. So people are just like walking, why is this random foreigner crying? And these kids would come to me, teenagers, high school kids, you know what? They could see, and that's what I really enjoyed about this society. But they would say, please, can you teach me English? And I would just sit in the park and read and correct and stuff like that. And one day I honestly woke up and it was night and day. I said, today I'm not going to go to the park and cry. I'm going to just literally, it was literally the same spot. And looking back at it, it's the weirdest, funniest thing. I laugh about it. But at the time, I could call it a form of depression. I was just almost checked out again. But I just woke up that one day and I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just not. I know who I am. I know, let me just start training again. All the advice I give to other people and stuff, let me not be a hypocrite. And it was almost like a Phoenix moment. I just burnt pretty much all my bad habits, feelings towards other people, things that I thought I needed to achieve, what society, not society, those around me said was the things to achieve. And I was honestly just said, I'm going to just live the life how I want to live. And carried on doing my thing. And it was the few best months of my life in Vietnam. And it's December time. I come back to South Africa and I was using it as a stopover. COVID hits. Obviously, COVID hits now. Luckily, I saved some money in my bank account and that could weather the storm, so to say. But Vietnam, going back onto that whole experience, I just put myself in a very uncomfortable situation. A situation where at the time I didn't know how I was going to get out of. If you look at it in almost like jiu-jitsu terms, I was on my stomach on the mat and guys had their hooks and a guillotine on around my neck, and I was just pretty much getting choked out.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to. And then I kind of got out of it. I don't know how, but I just did. Yeah.
Dude, I just want to say, I mean, the nerd in me gets so excited when I hear this, because last night when I was preparing for this, I literally wrote down from Joseph Campbell's books the stages of the hero's journey. And just to like briefly touch on it, so it starts with the call to adventure, right? Something happens that brings the hero out of his comfort zone. So it's normally a bad thing, because no one wants to leave a safe environment normally, unless you're making deliberate choices to put yourself in discomfort. Then the hero gets assistance. So you had Matthew Kemper in Vietnam telling you, hey, bro, come check this place out. It's cool, etc., etc. So there's like a guide. Then there's the departure, where you go, you say your goodbyes, you leave. And then the trials is the challenge, right? So you go into this place, the shit just hits the fan. Everything fucking goes wrong, right? Then you have the crisis. That's literally the next stage, where the hero thinks, I'm so screwed. And this is you sitting on the bench, crying every day, whatever. But then number 7.
No.
I'm sorry, but it's, you know what? If you can't
Crazy.
laugh about it, you know what I mean? The thing that follows the crisis is the treasure. So you say you had this phoenix moment where you almost transcend into this evolved version of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's the result, which is you've now lived the best couple of months in Vietnam, you've conquered this new territory, you're a confident guy. Then you return and you have a new life. So you go back to the place where you originally were, but you are a changed man. So you know it in a different way, you know? And then you create the new status quo, which is the life that you have now, in the sense of the new gym that you have, and you know, the training and the guy that you are and everything. It's just the reason why I get so excited when I talk about this is because both me and T, we've had our own stories, obviously our own journeys. And if you look at those journeys, more often than not, they follow the same cycle. And the reason why I bring this up is because I think there are so many people, the 90%, who are sitting on the edge of doing something, and they're scared to do it because they don't necessarily know why. It's like T says, the biggest obstacle to a great life is a good life. They're sitting in a good life, you know, they have a job that's not too bad, but not too great, but they know that there's something more out there. And when they hear a story like this and they hear like, this is what happens. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there's going to be things that make you question and doubt yourself. But when you get out on the other side, there's like a whole new life waiting for you, you know? T, I just wanted to give you a chance to touch on this because I know you have something to say.
Yeah, and I love that. I love obviously the fact that in life, and I think once you do it once and once you do it twice, you accept the reality of it, right? But like reward is always on the other side of risk and suffering. You know, I think a lot of us in life, especially as you get older and as you learn to gain wisdom, you always want to play it safe.
Yeah.
And playing it safe works because, like I said, it brings goodness, it brings comfort, it brings stability. However, it inhibits you from taking things to the next level. And I'll use a quick example of myself, right? I got married at a young age, I got kids at a young age. At the same time, I still wanted to invest and do all these other things, right? But pre that, I had all these thoughts of, if I get married, then I can't travel, or I can't invest, or I can't.
Yeah.
If I have kids, then I can't do that, and I can't do that, and I can't do that. And I said, no, screw that. I'll do what my soul wants, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And guess what?
You
I
did.
figured it out, right? I'm not gonna go deep into the suffering and the sacrifice, the pain that it takes,
Yeah.
but I've come to the point of accepting that life is about suffering for what you want. And you have to put yourself in situations where you're going to be in a dark space because that is the call to adventure that you were born to live. And through that, gain the wisdom to take things to the next level. And all great people, and I think this is the scary thing, right? Because even if you've been through it, you're still scared of it, right?
100%.
I think all of us are scared to go back to the bottom. But like if you accept it and you embrace it, then no cycle in life can ever bring you down. And I think that's the nice thing about doing it so many times. And I'll close that off by saying, a billionaire or a millionaire can go broke today and return to the same status again because they know the cycles.
Mm.
And so can any of us because we've been through the cycle once or twice. But the liberating fact is to begin or to understand that you can go through it again and live that within you so that you can navigate life accordingly.
Beautiful. And you know what's really cool is like you have to continue that process of taking yourself out of this comfort zone because it's not it's almost like happiness is in the pursuit of a goal, not so much in achieving it. It's like they say
Yeah.
that you must never let death catch you standing on top of a mountain that you've already climbed. You must let it catch you climbing a new one, right?
Yeah.
So if I can share something from my personal experience, I was on this journey to become a chartered accountant, and it was a 7-year journey. And it's almost when something is always far away, you almost feel like you're never going to get there, but you know you're on the right track and you're just moving towards this thing. And it's like a Mount Everest to yourself where you say, when I get there, everything will just make sense and I will understand everything. I know it's not an intellectual thing, it's an emotional thing where you just feel that way, right? And then I got there and I had this moment of elation and it was a great like fireworks moment. Everything was awesome. And then a couple of weeks in, it's like, what now? Because I raced towards this thing. I was 24. I was quite young. And I was like, okay, well, now I've got to figure out the rest of my life. And I left the industry and I started afresh in a different role where I was completely non-financial. And it was one of the best choices I ever made for myself because it humbled me so much. Because going from an environment where you are like, I don't want to say an expert, but this is your comfort zone of finance. You know finance. Now you go into this other role where you're working with doctors and engineers and different people. And now you can't rely on technical things. You have to look at principles for success. Like, it's interesting that Bessa talks about asking the smartest guy in the room or the most jacked guy in the room for help. Same thing in the finance world or in the corporate world. It's like go to the guy that you see as the highest performer and ask him, how do I do this thing? And then leaving that comfort zone and trying to be an entrepreneur and seeing those challenges and realizing like, when you have a boss that tells you, okay, you need to show up at this time and you need to do it this and you need to work hard, and then now becoming your own boss and being to dictate to yourself, like, what do you need to do? It's a different experience.
Yeah.
Um, but you got to do it. You've got to start afresh every time. Even my dad at his age now in his 60s, I was writing him a letter because it's his birthday next week, and I was saying to him one of the things that I admire about him is that even at his age now, he's still climbing new mountains, and I really respect that. And I think that's how you stay young. That's how you
Yeah.
sharp is chasing these new mountains. Something that I want to touch on, Neil, is the entrepreneurial side of your life, because you are an entrepreneur in your own right. Um, I'm curious, now that you look back at the starting of BSC, what would you have said to yourself with the wisdom and the benefit of hindsight now that you didn't know when you started, in terms of lessons or challenges or just things that you didn't expect that happened?
Yeah, that's a good question, hey. Obviously, there's a lot. The most persons, this age old, don't stop, put your best foot forward. I almost phrased it. I was speaking to my girlfriend's brother last night. It was his birthday, so we went out for dinner. And maybe a lot of the time when you speak to people, it's almost the advice you're looking for. That you're busy putting it out there and you're busy talking and chatting, and actually, like, maybe that's pretty much what I should be doing. But I was speaking to him and just saying he's in his final year of computer science and his mind is thinking very corporate and get a good job, get a good degree, just follow the routes and stuff. My mind wasn't thinking like that. Obviously, I've been in the entrepreneurial space for a while now, but saying to him, when I started, there were 10 gyms, so to say, in the area. And everyone was like, there's so many gyms. Like, are you sure you want to open up a gym? XYZ. But there was an older guy that told me something that has stuck with me to this day was, and what I could tell myself younger and just keep on rehashing is be so good. If there's 10 in the area, if you're so good, all those 10 are going to be like lights just flashing on you. Just you're the best in the room. So to say, you're the best service. You just honestly, no one can actually match you.
Yeah.
And that way of thinking, like an athlete, where every day you're going to be the best possible, you're going to put the best service out, you're just going to be the ultimate best from skills, from that whole biopsychosocial, body, brain, society, and everything around you will just like be advertisements for you. So going back is just be the best, honestly. Don't think about anybody else. Just literally put your best hand forward and everything else will play into it. So that's probably the advice I give myself daily is if I'm struggling with XYZ, if it's a podcast, just be better. Like learn a little bit more, understand a little bit more, reach out to the people that know this stuff. I don't know how to work camera angles and edits and stuff, but if I can take some capital I have or just ask the correct questions to guide me in the right way, delegate, I'm being smart. I'm not trying to take on things I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm being saying to myself, that's not my skill. As we were talking about with T in high school, he switched off. He was on autopilot. He was going through the motions when he was busy going to school, but he was so good at sprinting. And I enjoyed that, listening to that, because a lot of people forget that that's what makes up a society. Like, I'm the gym owner, you're the accountant, which has now gone on his adventure in a different way in society. You got T. Everyone is a different building block to society. If we were all the same, they wouldn't, like, honestly speaking, there wouldn't be a society.
Yeah.
So
it'd be a colony of ants, basically.
literally.
Right.
So my thing is, honestly, it can be very straight to the point, and I like that black and white thinking is be better tomorrow, be better today, be the best in whatever industry you're in, and you won't have the problems that people think they have. You think Elon Musk is thinking about his competitors, doesn't really care. You think Trump, like crazy dude, like those guys don't care. They're at a point in their life that all they're worried about is, can I run an extra second faster in that race? And that extra second faster is going to be faster than those guys that are surrounding you.
Dude, I love this. And I can tell you, I was listening to my dad talk about the retail business. And one of the people working below him was talking about something that a competitor was doing in terms of a product. And he was like, yo, we need to, so and so does this, so we must do that as well. And my dad was saying, if you just look at what they do instead of trying to be original, you'll never beat them because you're always behind. You're just playing catch up. You need to be asking yourself, what do I think is best? And how can I be the best? And something that you said there about using your competitors as marketing because of the comparison between the two of you. They're going to make you look even better because they can't perform at your level because your intent is to be the best from the start. Great principle then. T?
So, sorry.
And I like how Neil broke that down about like focusing on yourself, right? I think Alex, I'm very big on authenticity and being yourself, right? Because if you look at that parallel from a metaphorical perspective, being yourself is being original. And when you are original, you stand out. Everyone else puts a light on you because most people cannot do that.
Yeah.
And I think the most liberating thing, although it's hard, right? And people don't understand, it's very hard to be yourself. To be yourself, you actually need to be extremely confident to be your true self. But the reward of doing that in a society that doesn't always reward you for being yourself is the spotlight. And in Neil's example of his gym, opening up a gym amongst 10, but focusing on himself and focusing on the extra second has put the spotlight on him. And I mean, at your guy's age, that's insane. I mean, COVID is what now? 3 years ago? How old were you then?
24.
Or
Wild, but it comes from the courage of being yourself. And I think a lot of people don't get the courage to even be themselves for a very long time in life. I think if you get the courage to be able to be yourself and to be your authentic, vulnerable self, you then get liberated to freedom and a life experience that is not easy to attain.
well said.
Like you said there, T. So obviously, a lot of people I think make a mistake is also, and I was speaking to a fighter yesterday. He goes by the name Demar Penne, really well known in the industry. Growing in high school, I was watching him fight in the UFC, and he was almost like a godlike figure in my eyes. Obviously, being a champion. I get a message about 2 weeks ago, and he's like, "Hey man, can I come train with you?"
Hectic.
What? I
Amazing.
open it, and I'm like, "Yeah, bro, sweet, come pull through, literally." So he comes through, and while we're training and he's going through the work and he's doing a farmer's walk, and I'm honestly taking him through the ringer, he says to me, he's like, I actually asked him, I'm saying, "Why did you choose to come train with me?" And he said, "I just saw how passionate you were." And that honestly, I felt that was probably out of everything that I've done to this day, the best compliment that I've got.
Yeah.
Not, "Oh yeah, you started gym or this." Like it was just, you're passionate and you enjoy what you're doing. And that's the hand I was busy putting out. But
Wow.
talking about, and why I brought that up, we were speaking, you will start a brand, you'll start a business, and your name T will be associated, or Thrive and Survive Alex will be associated. You'll get people, and I'll be honest with you, that will literally try to burn it down. You got people in the society that will try to say, "What are these guys? Who are they to talk about this?" and stuff. You'll get others that are singing your praises. You'll get that whole approach. And when you and Al can sit down, and what I learned, and honestly just literally be what you said, that super confident and not even care, but at the same time be so confident to get someone like myself on and collaborate and speak and talk. And I have a podcast, you guys are shooting a podcast, we're not saying to each other, "Yours is better, mine's better." It's like,
Yeah.
what can I take that's best from mine? What can I take, and collaborate and move. And just that way of thinking of, you're not competition. Like, you're going to attract X amount of people in your zone. I'm going to attract X amount of people. It might be a crossover, but that whole always like cutthroat competitive bit, if you're thinking so much on the competitor and stuff, you honestly have already lost in every aspect. From a business, from a retail, like I can tell you now, your dad's probably, all the guys are looking at checkers 60/60, and like their model is just, as opposed to pick and pay, which is going through their crap. And like on every form, what I found is just collaborate, like-minded people, focus on your own journey, and literally block out the noise. Blinkers on, racehorse, like just block it out.
Well said, dude. It's interesting. Like I, both of us, we went to the same school, and you were saying when you left school, you kind of shut everybody out because you were on your own journey. I was very much the same. I went to Stellenbosch, and I was just focused on myself and like finding my own feet and my own identity as a person, and like you say, building that confidence to be yourself and to be authentic. And I like to say, following your inner voice and your instincts. And I reconnected with a friend who told me, my old friend group at school, every time he met them, they used to ask, "What's Al doing? What's Al doing? What's Al doing?" And almost like comparing me to them and trying to see who's winning and who's losing or whatever. And the truth is, I never thought about them once, because I didn't have time to think about anyone else, because the challenge of building your own life and your own success is all consuming. You know what I mean? Like, winners don't have time to think about. My favorite thing that Joe Rogan says is, "Do you think Michael Jordan is leaving YouTube comments?" No, he's not. He's in the gym,
Yeah.
Like you say, when you're trying to build this thing that is an extension of yourself, because your podcast is an extension of you, this podcast is an extension of us, and we're all very different, unique people. You actually don't have time to think about your competitors because you're too busy working on it, you know. See?
What else?
Sorry,
And
yeah.
I think it's complementary, right? To give you a good example, like obviously worked in the restaurant space as well. If you look at the design of a shopping mall, all the restaurants in one food court, right? Where there's competitors, where there's similar restaurants, but all the traffic goes that way, and the concentration of all these restaurants create healthy competition, so they complement each other. As opposed to if these restaurants were dispersed all over the mall, they probably wouldn't make a fraction of the money that they make. So the concept that Neil spoke about is like coming together and cross-pollinating the traffic is what really builds without looking at it as competition, but something actually of what we're doing differently.
Right. And basically, you wanted to say something?
Talking on exactly what you guys both said now, the route that I've taken now currently in my business and approach almost with all relationships, and I kind of wrote on the whiteboard the other day, just kind of putting my thoughts to paper, was create such rigid systems. And when you create those rigid systems, in that approach, there's no ambiguity. You're not letting your feelings dictate. So, and I said, I'm sure I said in a podcast or one of them was, a long time ago, I sat down, very stoic behavior, took a black book, pen, I wrote down what I value, what were my morals, my principles, and I said, this is what I'm going to live by. If those around me don't live by them, that's the way I'm living, you know? So having such rigid systems in your principles, in your morals, in your relationship, in your business, that when that adversity comes, that uncomfortable feeling comes into play, which it comes into a lot of the time, day to day, the way people speak to you, the way people, you know exactly, I stand for this, I don't stand for this, I don't stand for this, what is the contingency, how do I rectify it, and how do I move forward? And through that, just, I've had people, honestly speaking, you're talking about in varsity, what's Aldrin, and that will message me and say, you need to find balance. You need to, like, you're not making time for your friends. You're not making time for this. And I honestly replied, first of all, I don't care, really, honestly speaking. Like, my journey on, it's so brick wall mentality, where I've got a goal, I'm going to go through any brick or wall that's in my way. And if you're not following me and on the same vibe as me, same train as me, so to say, you're going to fall off. I'm sorry. So I said, you know what? I can't have balance in the stage I am in my business. I opened my gym 2-3 years ago. I'm now at the level where maybe I want to open more. Maybe I want to do this app. I'm trying new things. I need to start building that brand bigger. And I'm almost back at the stage where I need to do those 16, 18-hour days. I don't have an investor. I don't have the capital. I've taken out my own pocket. I don't have the parents that are just throwing money and stuff. So balance, we're not in the same. When I speak to my athletes and stuff, there's no such thing as balance. You literally going to that red line and you're just hovering below that red line. If you go over that red line, you're going to pop. But that's the art of it. It's understanding how can I every time build that threshold, and you're only going to get there is exactly what you want to do. How bad do you want it? Writing it down, building the systems so that when you are hit from all angles and you don't speak to us, you don't reply to our message. Sorry, bro. Like, I have to actually pay for my rent and I have to pay for this. Like, and then I also have to go spend time with my girlfriend. Like, also, you know, your wife, your children. So your time, there are only 24 hours in the day. So yeah, that's, so to say, back in the beginning, having those systems in place that your friendship, low maintenance, those type of things, and they fit in, fall out. If they fall out, having the confidence, because it is difficult to say to people, sorry, bro, maybe we're just not friends.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sorry, I don't satisfy that relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if two parties aren't invested in the relationship, there's no such thing. Maybe I'm not in it. And
Yeah, I can speak to this because one of the things, if I look at both of you guys as friends that I have, right, both are very low maintenance friends. And I always felt that I could check in on you 3, 4 months. We don't talk. But when we pick up again, it's like I saw you yesterday. And there's a mutual understanding there, you know. Something that you said, discipline equals, oh, you didn't say it, but when you were saying this, I just heard discipline equals freedom. When you were talking about your systems and your rigidness of your values, it sounds like it's this discipline, but actually it's freedom from having to think, what do I do in this scenario? Because you've clarified for yourself, this is who I am. This is my values that I live by. So there's no uncertainty. When the discomfort comes, you can just, it's binary. It's, well, this is what I do. I just show up and I work, you know. Um, T, I'm sure
Yeah.
you can add, yeah. So
And I like how you guys both framed it, right? And I like especially what Neil spoke about balance, right? I always look at life like a plane on a runway, right? For a plane to get into the sky, it first needs to start the engine, run the engine, run the turbos, speed up at a crazy speed, and then take off. And only after taking off, achieve balance.
right.
And that's the thing with your age as well, right? You have to look at yourself biologically. When can I run without balance?
Yeah.
It's in the early stages of your life. It's when you're on the runway, all right? And if you don't do it at that stage, then it becomes harder and harder and harder to get out of it. And the point I'm trying to make is that busy people understand busy people, right?
Yeah.
Because you are in the stage of your life where you are running your engine, you're trying to get off the runway so that when you get into the air, you can really cruise and then live a life of balance. So I think that's the essential part of life, and that's the essential part of having good friendships. And like Neil said, if you don't have friends who understand that, you can actually go backwards. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to say, jump on my train, or unfortunately, we cannot associate anymore.
Exactly. And what season of your life are you in? You know, everyone has different seasons. And you have a season for building, you know, you have a season for maintaining and reflecting. And like you said, you're trying to expand and you're trying to scale and you're trying to grow. So obviously you're in that season of building now. And so, you know, people when they talk about balance, there's this assumption that it means 50-50 or like, or, you know, 60-40 or whatever. But balance, I like to say it's a scale that tips depending on the season that you're in.
Well
So,
done.
you know, when you're in a building season, it can be 90-10 or 99-1, you know, where 99% of your time, like it sounds to me now, is on building. And then the 1% is just focusing on relationships. And the right relationships will fit into that.
Aid you.
I think going on that is, so there's a big trend obviously on social media now with regards to balance. The Ubermans, just all the difference. You got Tim Ferriss, really cool guy, should push in, but just everyone put in their advice there. Wake up, watch the sunrise, can't have coffee in the first 90 minutes, like all those non-negotiables where you need to be eating X amount, you need to be doing X amounts and stuff. Truth of the matter is not everyone can be fitting into those, systems. I don't wake up. I wake up at 3:45, 3:50 in the morning. I'm not waking up to the sunrise. Well, I'm watching the sunrise, but I wake out of bed. Habitually, I have my first coffee in the first 20 minutes. There's a lot of things that are said that
You can't do that.
no,
That's naughty.
exactly. Like I'm gonna die. Literally. But then again, I'm not drinking alcohol or like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
like people like will become rigid and it's in the wrong ways. So I say, yeah, my systems, principles, X, Y, Z, but I'm very open-minded to
Flexible.
a million things. My type of principles are show people respect, treat people how you want to be treated, the golden rules, the arrive on time. That's through respect. Those are the type of things. If a youngster comes to me and, this is super cool, like I have mentees with regards to maybe you can scale like this, I'm not going to be like, what do you know? You don't have experience. I was that same 19-year-old busy pushing
Yeah.
and the door and, 18-year-old. So yeah, rigid in your approaches and stuff, but there needs to be, I don't know, that is balance. Like
Yes.
that
Yes.
is that for me is balance. Like you able to maybe not hit the routine all the time and
Yeah.
like there's so many principles, and it's just pretty much what you want and how you fit in and keeping that machine running correctly. So people say, yeah, you're working 16 hours, you train in 2-3 hours a day as well. Train with my 5 a.m. clients. I'm hitting my macros. I'm getting my protein in. I'm getting my water, my hydration. Got the electrolytes. Maybe my carbs are through cream of rice in a NutriBullet. Still having my carbs. I'm getting them in either way.
Yeah.
You're just altering in that stage of your life
Yeah.
and getting that balance.
Yeah, it's like Hormozy. He has this video about that anti-routine and to be anti-fragile. And he says, if I'm competing with somebody and they're a person who needs to wake up every morning and do their meditation, do their affirmations, get the sunlight, he thinks, great, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. Because as soon as something disrupts his routine, he's gone. Whereas for him, it's wake up, have a coffee, work. That's it. Maybe watch a Netflix in the evening, but that's it. And rinse and repeat. And before we had this podcast, I was talking to you about, the simplicity of doing the same things every day in the sense of eliminating choice, wearing the same clothes, eating the same things, not caring about that because that's not the priority. It's focusing on your outcome. That's your priority of I need to build my business. I need to serve my clients and be the best trainer that I can be. And the rest of the stuff is just details. You know what I mean? It's the concept of being an all season man where you don't just perform when the sun is shining. You can do it when it's raining. You can do it when it's cold outside. You can do it in the spring. And when I hear you speak, that's what I think about.
Yeah.
See?
From my side, last question, and the time is quickly ticking.
Yeah.
Spiritually, I mean, on the actual intellectual side, I can see you quite complete. On the physical side, I can see you quite complete. But on the spiritual side, what are some of the things that you live by that allow for you to aid your intellectual and physical capabilities in life, if you have any?
Good question.
Spiritual. So I grew up in a Christian family, going to church obviously every Sunday. I went to a Catholic school from grade 9, St. Benedict's. So religion has always been in the forefront. I grew up, my grandfather was very religious, so Sunday school was a given. I'll be honest with you, through a lot of the things I kind of walked away, so to say, from religion. My parents they, like I say, every Sunday they at church, brother and stuff. I don't know why, to be honest with you. I just kind of veered away. But from a spiritual and understanding, I do believe there's a greater power. There is a higher power. We all speak to him in a different way. That's my personal thing. Be it Christianity, Catholic, Muslim, like we all reach in the same medium. It goes back to the principles, the energies. So if somebody comes to me with a good energy and they're busy like refilling my energy, I'm going to open up. Conversations. If you come into me and I'm seeing value, I'm seeing, this is going to just honestly enlighten me and just push me going forward, I'm going to open up completely. I'm going to speak. I'm going to just like engage. If you come into me with a red, so-called red energy, red, green energy, and I instantly feel it's going to be a barrier. This is just going to be a waste of my time. I'm going to shut it off completely. So I'm largely dictated by energies, and you can feel that in an individual completely. The way they approach, the manner. There's a lot of things. I trust my intuition. I trust my guts, so to say. So that's pretty much how I live by my life, is that trust in that I know, you know what, there are certain instances where somebody comes up as a hard wall, and I've seen it, and they just open up and you're like, whoa, that's one of
Yeah.
the coolest people I've ever met. You know,
Yeah.
there are those are not like unicorns, so to say,
Yeah.
but for the most part, you know when somebody has your best interests. And even if they don't have your best interest, not everyone needs to have your best interest.
Yeah.
Truth be told. It's just honestly like you know, you can work together, build together, and just benefit from each other. So
Wow. Wow. Alex, your
You know what?
side?
Yeah, I love what he said. You know, like, I also grew up in a Christian family, and I had a similar journey where I walked away from religion for a period of my life before rediscovering it in my own personal way and realizing
Yeah.
I didn't have to follow rules that other people were setting for me in my relationship with God.
Yeah.
Whatever form he comes in, whether it's Christian or Buddhism or Islam or whatever, it's this recognition that there is this higher power and this energy, and if you're looking for it, you'll find it. Whether
Mm,
it's in the gym
mm,
when you're there by yourself before the sun comes up,
mm,
and you just like I've heard people say when they work out that it sometimes feels spiritual to them because
mm,
they just have this connection to their soul, wherever you do.
mm,
So you
mm.
can be in the church, you can be in a gym, you'll find it there. Uh,
Wow. Wow.
and you please
Can
help.
I and can I just top that off maybe by summarizing maybe what you guys are both doing in one spiritual concept, right? So like I think you guys know I obviously live by a compilation of different spiritual concepts and religions. I think that's the best thing to create your own Bible. And I
Yeah.
have this thing that I keep next to my laptop. I'm going to read it to you, right? So it's a spiritual concept called liberty. It's a Rastafari concept. And I
Okay.
have it next to my laptop because it kind of like makes me understand myself a bit better. And it says here, liberty is the Rastafari concept of righteousness, ever living. It is the essence, it is the essence of the realization that energy or life force is conferred by a spirit that lives within you and flows through you into others and vice versa.
Mm.
This is seen as the presence of the higher power living within you to allow you to access others and to allow others to access you. This refers to the Almighty as I and the Almighty as I, which is the connection between God and yourself.
Wow.
jeez.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I'll send it to you guys. Just Google it. It's called Liberty, and that's what Rastafaris live by. I'm not a Rastafari myself, but like I said, I've looked at all of them, and based on how you guys are both speaking, I think we are all living liberty.
Same. It's picking up the tools from everywhere.
Yeah.
Besta, I just wanted to ask you one more question before we leave, very selfishly, but I'm just curious about this. So, what does your training look like today? Do you train every day?
Quite right.
And how much do you train, and what does your routine look like?
So you'll laugh at this. This year my resolution, and I'm not, but I can't even call it a resolution. I just said I wanted to be like a super athlete, so
Yeah.
to say. So I'm training, I'm trying to get 2 to 3 sessions in a day. So a lot of it I do with my clients.
Yeah.
So I had a 5 a.m. client this morning, and typically my 5 a.m. clients I'll do strength with, enjoy strength with, the squats, the bulletproofing of your body.
Mhm.
So yeah, all the compound movements on specific days. Then midday I have another client that loves metabolic conditioning. So sprint, ski erg, row erg, like a lot of sprinting. And then I'm running quite a bit. So last week I set my PB for my half marathon with minimal training from a running perspective.
Sure.
Within a short time, it was 1 hour 39. I'm trying to sub the 130 in the next 6 months, which I will do. I might even push for it for 2 oceans. To be fair, it's
Oh,
been my third half marathon. So I just want to, it's the saying of ready for anything,
Yeah.
being a lion. So put me in any environment and I'm going to be ready. So that's pretty much what I
Nice.
want to be, is like a Navy SEAL. To be honest, I'm creating my own Navy SEAL. Like if T says, yo, bro, let's go do some sprints. Sweet. Bro, let's do some kettlebell work. Sweet. I want to just be able to plug and play
Yeah.
physically. And I do believe that's not a hybrid. There was a funny meme this whole hybrid training. Oh, I'm a hybrid athlete. I'm a hybrid. No, you're just you're just a fit person. You can run, you can lift.
Exactly.
You're just a fit person. Like, so
Yeah.
I just want to be super fit, and I'm very competitive by nature. Well, as you can see, business, it's just that mentality of just winning. And so I know I'm not going to be the best marathon runner or half marathon. Do you think I can? No, I'm going to still try go set my best time and try win. Me trying to win, I'm going to get a better time. That's just pretty.
Take the
Yeah.
best marathon runner, make
So
it
like
do a deadlift and see what happens. That's all.
a funny story, and you'll laugh, is last week Sunday with the run, rookie era, I never charged my watch, so I couldn't see my pace I was running.
Yeah.
So the first 3Ks it dies, and I'm busy running, and there was obviously a lot of people, and I saw this jacked dude just running quick. So I ran up to him, and I'm like, yo, bro, sorry, my watch died. What's your pace? He's like, no, I'm doing the marathon. So I'm holding like a 450. I was like, geez, bro, 450 for a marathon. Okay, cool. But I have to run a little bit quicker. Ran to this other dude that was pretty jacked as well. Not as jacked as him. He was doing the 440, and I was like, dude, what's your time? He's like, 440. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna run next to you for the rest of the race. My watch died. He was like, sweet, and we just ran next to each other. Yeah, so
I love it.
So yeah.
All right, beautiful. All right, guys, I think we're gonna wrap this one up. I think we could speak for another hour and a half easy, and I think we will.
Definitely.
We will soon. Brother, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your vulnerability, being authentic. And T, thank you for your questions as always. And yeah, everybody, I hope that you got as much from this episode as I did. And we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil. And life is liberty, guys. Life is liberty.
No, thanks, guys. Thanks, Al. Thanks, T. Honestly, a wholesome chat. And next one, yeah, will be super awesome. We can dive into Al and T.
Yeah. All
Push
right.
it around.
Everybody. Cheers.
Have a good